amazed if it hasn't been yet. It's gone. I didn't even bother writing. I just put a line through it before we started. And he has banned out the Druid. And that's amusing to me because you're saying sort of how good his lineup is against Druid. Well, it's that good against everything else as well that he feels he can actually get rid of the Druid.
Yeah, I do actually find that a little bit surprising because NaviOOT is going into his ban with basically more information than his opponent because his Quest Rogue gets banned every single day of the week. Kuonet doesn't really have a choice here. When NaviOOT, I imagine he will definitely have been considering banning away the Death Rattle Hunter because he's got, what, Taunt Druid, which is pretty nice, I find, up against the Malagos Druid. He's got Death Rattle Hunter, which is pretty good. And Q-Block, not a deck that I have played much against at the moment, given how widely, how much more popular even Warlock is. But I would have to imagine it's in a similar spot to that deck where you're just trying to get down Mountain Giants early on, and you have even more heal to fight back against the damage combos from Malagos.
Yeah, I mean, you and I made our notes separately. We both said probably banning the Hunter.
Yeah.
Glad we both said probably at this point because the Druid was the deck I considered least likely to be banned, but Navi maybe just making sure there were no swerves thrown. Maybe he saw something in a potential weird ban that Kuonet could lump into. Because otherwise, I agree with you. I think the ban from Kuonet was like a free ban. He knew it was going to be the rogue. I think Navi did have that information. What a great picture of Navi.
Yeah, I know. It can't really do it justice though. No matter how handsome you think he is on the internet, he's just, gosh damn it, he's a good-looking man in real life.
I actually said to him, he's like, of all the streamers I've met, he's the most like you imagine from the stream when you meet him. You're like, yeah, thanks. Everyone tells me the same thing. I'll pride myself on that. He is exactly as you see him.
Was that meant as a compliment or an insult?
A compliment in this case. Yeah,
right.
He's actually very entertaining, very funny, and rather good at Hearthstone for the second time. I think earlier in the year, maybe he sort of freewheeled a little bit.
Yeah, trying to focus on building up his stream, I think.
After he built up the stream, now he's focusing on getting good again. And getting good he has, and he's finding himself here in this top 16.
Yeah, clearly, very good finding the Keleseth to come down on turn 2. Passing up the cube is far from ideal because you can get some pretty disgusting stuff rolling in this matchup because you're generally given a fair bit of time to get rolling with the cubes and playdeads. But I do agree, Keleseth here pretty much just makes every one of his draws so much more resilient against the Hellfires and Defiles that Kuonet is going to be throwing down.
Didn't find the Death Knight, which seems like a pretty important card in this matchup, as it will go on for quite a while, one way or the other. Spider-Bomb will do the job fine though. Now he's found even more stuff to do. He'll be alright.
Spider-Bomb is so good in this matchup that you have to be very, very certain before you throw it down. Obviously, if you are expecting Mountain Giant to come down on turn 3, it's absolutely gorgeous because they play the Mountain Giant, I suppose. If they do decide not to play around it, you can then just go Terrascale Stalker, and then you quite happily push everything else to face. But if they have to do anything else, that's still a victory. They've still not played a Mountain Giant on turn 3.
And you can isolate the big minions very easily in this Warlock deck. They often only have 1 minion at a turn, sometimes they have 2. So all you need to do is have even a mini board or a flanking strike, take out the little minion, and then you can just spider bomb the big one.
Navi seeming to have gone, I would imagine, a level further with the thinking to say, okay, if they don't go Giant, what do they do? To which the answer is double 2-drop with a coin Hellfire, and then they play Mountain Giant the next turn, at which point Navi doesn't even have an answer at all. So I think he's saying here, this Spider Bomb, while it would be pretty good on this turn, if it stops my opponent from going from a Mountain Giant, it will be so good if next turn I can go Spider Bomb Playdead to kill off a Giant, that it's worth holding it back here.
Yeah,
it's close.
It's Navi showing that he is thinking hard about the game again.
I think he has come to the conclusion here that I agree with, that it is so important to get the Spider Bomb to activate correctly to stay ahead.
Yeah, definitely want to do it. It's just so easy to isolate the opposing minions and just take them out one at a time. And you don't need that massive board. The one thing you can lose is just losing to a massive board if they get Defiles going on you. But Kuonet, as it happens, it all looks a bit silly because we're watching Kuonet's hand and there's absolutely nothing doing in this.
Yeah, this is just a miserable hand at the moment for Kuonet. The double Volga Homunculus. This is an anti-aggro hand. This is a premier anti-aggro hand. But against the Death Rattle Hunter, you need to get moving an awful lot quicker, because I find that generally time is very much in the advantage of the Death Rattle Hunter. If you just play out, medium-sized threats turn after turn, eventually they will go Cube Playdead, or they will go Katharina, or King Crush, or whatever
even
else.
Rexar, anything. There's so much late game.
Exactly.
They will get some of it for sure. And he's not messing around. He's going to play dead this, which is good sensing from him. I mean, obviously, very likely a giant would have been played if Kuonet had one. He's just going, you know what? I don't think you've got anything. I'm just going to blow that up and force you to show me your way to get rid of this.
Somewhat interesting point that Kuonet decided to point both copies of the Shroombra towards his own face. It seems like a stupid point to make, and maybe it is, but with the effect of hooked Reavers, you definitely want to get yourself into a position where you are still able to play them down if the taps go your way, but not at such a low health total that your opponent can burst you down with King Crush and Charged Devilsaur.
So Navi just playing these as 4/4s, which is a little bit sad, but
yeah, it's a 3-mana 4/4.
Yeah, he's got no removal for this giant that's coming.
Yeah. It says a lot about this deck when you play a 3-mana 4/4, a card that will probably be never printed as vanilla stats, and you say, well, that's kind of sad.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I have lost access to any deck lists or anything, so I'll ask you some questions in a moment. Oh, we'll be good. We've got that.
So the Mountain Giant finally coming down for Kuonet here, trying to push some kind of a bit of aggression onto NaviOOT, who has found something to play on this turn. But it's far from the best turn he was looking for. This hand has just proved to be that little bit too expensive, I think, to really push his advantage to the absolute maximum.
Yeah, it didn't curve out how he quite would have liked to, so he got the good start, but like you say, pushing the advantage is going to be almost impossible. And Katharina's in danger of becoming a little bit iffy at this point, at this rate.
Yeah, 2 Grizzlies left, I think, as the 2 beasts. I mean, this is the downside of taking out the Savannah Highmane in favor of Charged Devilsaur. I think there's a reason why it has been the go-to list for a long while, where you have 1 King Crush, obviously, 1 Savannah Highmane, and 2 Witchwood Grizzlies for a good amount of anti-aggro capability, whilst also giving you a strong curve play as well.
Yeah, it's weird how this Devilsaur just won't go away. People are still not really sure what to do with it. But as you're saying, the reason for the Highmane is you can actually just play it on curve, and it's good enough. This is a little bit greedier.
Wow.
It's almost the level where it's what you're comfortable with. It is that close. But this is kind of the worst Katharina hand you can get. Not that many Katharina hands are bad. Let's not mess around. But
it's still going to be pretty good. Like Katharina on 8 for a 3/13.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, a 4/13 Grizzly, then following up with King Crush as well. It's going to be a tremendously aggressive couple of turns, against which Kuonet needs to find those defensive options, which currently aren't really there. Vulgar Homunculus is fine, but it will get chewed up by the Witchwood Grizzlies and Katharina itself. Hux Reavers, as I pointed out, the fact that Kuonet decided to target his own face with both Shroombrewers is definitely now coming back to bite him. I might have even liked one of the Shroombrewers just to be thrown away on one of the minions in terms of the heal effect, just to be played as a 4/4 to develop something on board.
And even Charged Devilsaur, the way this is going now, they get to the higher mana turns. It's a terrible value card, but it might just do the job in the situation he's actually in. So, doing the obvious things. Notice having a bit of a chat to himself there as well. I think it's a common trait of streamers. I think you've mentioned this before, that many of them do sort of talk to themselves during the game because they're so used to talking while they play.
Yeah.
That when they're sitting there in the quiet, playing on their own, they just used to carrying on talking.
He's just mouthing there like, "Thanks for the subscription. Welcome to my club. I hope you enjoy your stay."
Wow. Kuonet's focus is going to be needed here. He's a strongly focused player, but what do you do about this 4/13? He just shuts down the entire board. Trying to find a decent Bone Mare, maybe.
Yeah, Bone Mare can... Like, it has to be a defensive Bone Mare, right? It's not even an aggressive Bone Mare, unless you want to go Silence. You can't even go tap hooked Reaver on this turn because of lack of mana. The perfect health total NaviOOT setting Kuonet to here. It's worked out really beautifully.
And one thing that is interesting is I think Navi doesn't like slow players. Yeah, I know that's from the stream. He doesn't like sitting around waiting for a minute for his opponent to play. He likes to be the person whose turn it is.
Okay, fair enough.
And he does seem to get a little bit fidgety out there.
He doesn't like playing against people who take a while. He literally has an emote in his chat of tank up.
I know.
So,
but he does it quickly.
Okay, he does press that tank up button real quick.
He might take an hour to win the game, but he but he does it at 20 seconds a turn.
So now there is not quite lethal available for NaviOOT, but getting remarkably close here if you would like to go for it.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Like, he hasn't done anything this game other than just stay alive, and we're talking about lethals already.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what Katharina does. I can't help but bring it up every time I see it, of just how good this card is.
It's
insane.
Weird it took so long to be played.
Yeah.
I know it needs tools to go with it. It's not like King Crush was just suddenly appeared in the meta. It's like in the card list. It's been there for a long time.
Yeah. It's just needed to find its spot. It's, you know, in terms of what it does, to be honest, of how powerful it is comparable to Dr. Boom, but it doesn't fit into those aggressive decks like Dr. Boom obviously did, because you need to modify how your deck works so heavily.
Yeah, the early game just hasn't been there until recently for the Hunter, of course. But it is weird how the card is so busted, yes. Without the supporting cast, it's not that great.
But it is going to be getting the job done right now, unless Kuonet can find the answer he needs to kill off this board. I don't think it's really there, so the only option is to make a big old taunt wall to try and fight back against this from NaviOOT.
Yeah, and although that sounds great and all,
it's
so
probably not
wrong with that statement at the moment, yeah.
Yeah, so we could see Defile trade into the Devil's Saw Lich King on this turn, keeps him alive.
If your opponent doesn't have Hunter's Mark, King Crush,
obviously he would be dead. But it's really the best he's got, I think, unless he can see something better. Tap for a Spell Stone doesn't really do it.
Yeah, none of this works well for him at all.
He could go Silence,
Yep.
Sun Fury. I think if you're ever going to win this game, you have to assume that both beasts are in hand for NaviOOT, so it can't be pulled out by the Katharina. But then again, if they're in hand, then he can play King Crush, so you're just dead anyway.
So he's come to this conclusion. I'm pretty sure he hates it. That is just going to be that, just in case you hadn't noticed by now.
That is going to be it.
I mentioned it a few times, but yeah.
Closing out this game nice and easily there, bringing him up 1 game to 0. The Death Rattle Hunter taking a really nice quick victory. I wonder if that will be making NaviOOT, I don't know, question his own ban strategy of getting rid of the Druid instead of the Hunter, because I imagine Kuonet will also be able to get off to a relatively quick victory with his Death Rattle Hunter himself.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what Navi says afterwards if he is...
Mountain Giants. And when you have a 1-mana life tap, you're obviously getting that so much more consistently, as we may now be seeing here for Kuonet on, I believe, his Even Warlock up against the Taunt Druid for Navi.
Yeah, another one where I think Navi has a slight edge, and I don't think we need to say much. He's got a slight edge in a large percentage of the available matchups.
This one's kind of close, I think, because Skulking Geist is, I think, more important in this matchup than against other Druids, because primarily you're protecting your own Mountain Giants, Hooked Reavers from the Naturalizers. But what I find it also means is that NaviOOT has to create so much breathing room in order to be able to play Hadronox at all, because he can then no longer go Hadronox into Naturalize on the same turn to make 1 giant board. He will instead be relying on making a big board of taunts, playing the Hadronox behind it, and then hoping that he will be able to clear off the rest of his taunts and then kill off Hadronox. It's quite a tall order.
It is, but sometimes you just win. After all that, I mean, you are still a Druid, right? So
you know what? I cannot argue with that analysis.
Sometimes you do just Druid people, no matter what the difficulties they need to surmount, and that is the problem. And the reason I mention that is because Navi is on the edge of just Druiding this game.
I know that you were looking at deck lists, so that was some kind of an offhand remark, but that was probably the most insightful analysis you've given in a while. Sometimes you do just win. It's
and
true.
you could too.
It's been heard. I've heard tell of winning.
But yeah, I was actually looking at the screen in part at the same time. The reason I went with that amazing analysis is because this is one of those games where you might just straight up not have to do anything.
Yeah, this is the benefit of playing Druid at the moment, or it's the mark of any really good deck I find in Hearthstone, where the backup plan is fine. It's still a decent deck if you don't draw Mana Worm in Aggro Mage, or if you don't draw Wild Growth in Druid. It's still a decent deck, but when you do get that perfect start, it just feels unbeatable, to be perfectly honest.
No Hadronox, no Oakheart, doesn't matter at the moment. I mean, it's not over, but Lich King into any dragon you like. With a bit of removal backup and all that good stuff you were talking about still to come. And so yeah, to elaborate on my analysis somewhat of sometimes you just win, it's going to be able to make it difficult for Kuonet to get into position where he can give Navi the problems you were talking about.
Navi does only have one copy of Sleepy Dragon in the deck. He's running 2 Dragon Hatchers, so Master Oakheart is still a live draw on the following turn.
1 UI?
1 UI as well, yeah, that's the big switch, isn't it? It's 1 Sleepy Dragon for 1 Ultimate Infestation. And also 1 Witching Hour for a little bit more anti-aggro capability. It's an interesting modern version of the deck. 1 Carnivorous Cube as well. This is a very ungreedy version of the deck, and I wonder if because of that, if we see Kuonet surviving this early wave of ramped up minions that we're seeing here, he could very well pull this back, I think.
Or just get rid of everything, basically. Just hang on in there.
There's not that much stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot. But if Kuonet can start developing onto the board, he could very possibly start trading minion for minion. Although I agree, it will be difficult.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but the reason it's going to be tough is the mana. So the way he will fight back is to just not get too far behind into the 3 or 4 turns from now until that equilibrium is leveled up. I heard an oof.
Yeah, that's... yeah, like, Cube, you want to go for it on the Lich King, but, I mean, what, Spellbreaker would just completely lock you out. Wouldn't lock you out of the game, but it would be so miserable here. Cubing the Lich King is always something you're looking to do, because you can just get yourself so many naughty combos with all the Lich King cards thrown in together. But I would have to imagine it's going to be Dragon Hatcher or Sleepy Dragon.
Yeah, it's interesting because he only has 1 Primordial Drake left for it to fetch.
The only dragon.
It's not that exciting, but then also you don't really want to draw that card either, so maybe you just do it anyway to get rid of it.
But then you're thinning your deck to get you closer towards the other Dragon Hatcher and the Master Oakheart, both of which do pretty much nothing. But the benefits of this play are, number one, you are thinning your deck, which is on average good. I was perhaps exaggerating that it draws you towards your bad cards. And also, Kuonet has no idea that this is the only dragon left in deck.
Yeah.
He will very likely be making some weird plays here that involve going well out of his way, not developing minions, just to kill off that Dragon Hatcher.
Yeah, every chance he just Spellbreakers it, which would be a massive win for Navi.
Yeah. Or just Mossy Horror on this turn. It's very possible.
Yeah. Which again, 7 mana to play a 2/7.
You're
and
happy
kill a
with that.
2/4. Yeah, you'll take that if you're NaviOOT.
Kuonet is, as I mentioned though, still going relatively even in terms of minion for minion. If he was to go Mossy Horror or even Spellbreaker, that would be a decent development onto the board, while far from exceptional, which would mean he can keep even from NaviOOT. He's not just being run over in the early stages of the game.
So yeah, talking of strange plays, we can see why this is happening. He's going to get the value trade into the Dragon Hatcher, but it's because of what Navi's done that made this play. Yeah, you can see both hands. This play is awful, which means it's a win for Navi. Obviously, it's fine, but it's definitely a win for him there. Purse lips as the Oakheart turns up late.
Just that tiny bit too late. It will still summon a 2/4 Dragon Hatcher, which is not nothing, but something. It's a card thin from your deck, and 1 in 3 Hadronox, 2 in 3 Ironwood Golem, I think, is the 3 cost that's summoned. Yeah, not playing the Trog Gloom Eater either, so nothing on the 1 mana, the 1 attack slot either.
How do you feel about the Gloom Eater?
I honestly don't know. I feel like it's just so even either way. Whenever I see it played against me on ladder, I'm thoroughly underwhelmed, to be honest.
Yeah, that's how I
rarely
always
feels
feel.
like it gets there.
Even if it does something, I don't feel like it really did any more than another good minion would have, or another good card would have. I don't feel menaced by it at all.
Yeah, I feel like Trog Gloom Eater maybe got an unnecessary amount of fame because it was at DreamHack Summer, I think.
It was definitely one of the early ones of the year.
It was either DreamHack Summer or DreamHack Tour, and I think it was at DreamHack Summer, where a load of players started bringing it, and we were asking them, why have you got it? Is this some crazy new tech?
Didn't
and they were like,
misclick or something?
Yeah, it was just, I just net decked Seiko. Yeah. Like, Seiko just put it in, I just copied him.
He'd put it in there for a laugh, just
yeah,
because
he just like woken up half an hour earlier or something.
And then everybody just copied it because he's good, and suddenly it's got like a quarter of the decks are playing it. It's like, what's going on? Oh, Psycho was asleep and everyone copied his deck.
I'm sure Seiko will put us straight on that story, and it was actually
an
hard researched, amazing tech card.
Yeah, nothing to do with something he thought of over breakfast. Kuonet struggling to have a coherent game plan here. Obviously going 1-for-1, like you've been discussing, is the idea. But that helps. How to put it into action is a lot different. This anti-magic shell might actually get some value pretty soon.
And that was the fastest turn I think we've seen here at HCT
See how
Singapore.
bored he pretends to be. I'm sure he's not actually bored, but...
Kuonet now having perfect information that the Sleepy Dragon is already in hand. But even then, this board, as I said, the Dragon Hatcher being summoned from the deck is primarily just a card thinned, which means he can't draw it. But with an anti-magic shell, that is a very non-zero amount of damage. Lethal being threatened on the next turn for NaviOOT, unless, as always, a strong defensive play can be made for Kuonet. He's just been on the back foot very thoroughly both games so far this tournament, or this series.
Navi is thoroughly entertaining, and you're right, this is going roughly how we expected it to, probably even more extreme than we expected. And I sometimes feel like the only thing that beats Navi is himself. Like, he's just sitting there, I can almost hear him screaming against a slow player in the back of my head here. It's like, come on, hurry up.
Kuonet almost giving me a small heart attack there as he didn't attack in with the Ooze first before going for Hellfire. But double Hellfire to completely clear up the board. It seemed like maybe he wasn't giving it enough thought before he went for it, because it's... I mean, if he thinks it's the best play, then go for it. But it's not a good play. It's not a particularly powerful play. You really want to stay on the offensive here, because as soon as you give a clear board, you know it's very, very likely that the Taunt Druid will be able to develop onto that empty space.
Yeah, as it happens, I mean, at 4-12 is a development, it's not a bad one, but NaviOOT is kind of out of things to do right now. It can change very quickly because he has this cube, he has the Witching Hour, so obviously a lot of top decks that help him out immensely, but just for the time being, his hand is a little light on stuff. Maybe trying to make a giant with a Death Grip.
So Kuonet getting, what is it, 3 demons? Oh, only 2 here.
Yeah.
Off of the Blood Reaver Gul'dan. This is a pretty miserable Gul'dan, and not something that we actually often see nowadays. I generally find that we're seeing more demon development before going for the Blood Reaver Gul'dan, because players are valuing that last extra push that the demons afford you.
I think it's because we're seeing a lot of mirrors.
That's
so
fair.
People are being greedier and greedier with the demons, because in the mirror it is so tight based on value.
Yeah.
And we certainly do in those mirrors. Again, we didn't used to see it, now people used to race to Gul'dan, now they are trying to set them up. And he does rip the giant, thought he might.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think you're fairly happy to see that as Navi. You could see it come down on this turn.
I mean, he has got quite a light hand, especially as Taunt Druid hands go, so this giant will probably go up in cost over the next few turns.
Yeah, that's true.
Seems like a good board to plonk it onto.
I kind of want to get down the anti-magic shell on this turn, just because then it protects you from any Gul'dan hero powers closing things out. So like Oaken Summons anti-magic shell I really don't hate on this turn. I guess you want to save it for going for lethal, but he has double branching cards to go for that as well.
I like the fact that decision made him vote. After he just spent the last 3 turns rolling his eyes and wondering why his opponent's playing slowly. Turns out he does too.
Yeah, a decision to be made here for Navi. It's all been a little bit beneath him so far, I'm sure he'd have you believe.
Yeah. Well, he is technically threatening lethal, although obviously in the real world that's not happening.
Yeah.
And so Kuonet does have to take evasive action. He doesn't have a whole heap of choices.
He really doesn't, and that's the benefit of NaviOOT's play, is he's kind of just cut Kuonet's options in half, because he's just under threat of dying at all points. Kuonet going with the first play that leapt out to me as well, of just make a defensive board, it trades against the giant if necessary.
Super close to lethal with the swipe.
He is surprisingly close. Swipe, anti-magic shell, Wrath is...
How What, swipe face?
Yeah, swipe face, anti-magic shell, 2 off.
Yeah, 2 off.
Very,
it's a little bit convoluted, so he probably won't even go that route.
Yes, yeah.
He ends up losing too much stuff.
If it was lethal, I think you'd go for it, I agree.
He probably would at that point. I tend to go for lethals too.
Okay, but given what I meant to say...
I owed you that one from earlier when I mentioned that he was going to try and win.
Nothing's ever easy, is it, Lorinda?
No, it really isn't.
But we do see Navi going with a very nice middle-of-the-road play where he gets a bit of development and a lot of damage through to face in the meanwhile with that Giant. We know that they're good in the mirror. I just perhaps wasn't expecting it to see up against the Taunt Druid.
Yeah, and I don't think Kuonet was either for the longest time. This anti-magic shell does feel like it belongs in play. Has done for a while.
He's very possibly saving it for a big board of taunts afterwards with the Witching Hour and Cube. Obviously, he needs to find Hadronox beforehand for that to work. But I think his plan here is working out still pretty well. He's playing very aggressive. His Giant isn't really in much fear of dying, because if there was a full 7 power Spellstone, or even a 5 power Spellstone, I think that Kuonet would have thrown it down by now.
Yeah, Kuonet's, I mean, picking up the Sunfury at least has given him some plays, but he's struggling mightily. Of course, struggling mightily when you have gaining 3 health per turn is slightly less bad than usual, but still just can't find great plays. And he's super close to the rope this time around.
Oh wow, this is an interesting play.
Okay.
Yeah, I was no, I was going to say I was looking at Dread Infernal trade, but that leaves a Giant on board, which is far from perfect, as we see Navi throwing down like lightning that Nourish to start drawing through his deck and trying to get that lethal as quick as he possibly can.
But you are right, that Kuonet played lose a lot of resources up for what it achieved. It's worked okay, but now he's still damned to only 1 or 2 minions per turn, particularly as he still needs to really be healing.
Yeah, I mean, he was considering going draw and then Spellstone just to go up to the 10 cards and throw 1 away. This does give him a lot more survivability, which I think in the long run will act as a pseudo card draw, because he buys himself an extra turn, which should get him there.
So the tides have turned a little as Navi's been whiffing for 3 or 4 turns now. But that's
no longer.
Good.
Yeah, this is exactly what NaviOOT needed right now, because I was just going to bring up the fact that I was talking about right at the start, where Kuonet, after he's played the Geist in this matchup, Navi needs to create some breathing room. If he is under too much pressure, he can't play Hadronox on an empty board, or he'll just die. So getting it here just in time is so crucial, even if though it was right towards the bottom of his deck, because any later, and I think he might have just been smoked down by the Lich King.
And he did branching pass for armor not too long ago, which bought him a little bit of this time that he's got here when he drew the Hadronox. He could have gone for cards or tried to hurry it up, but he just took his time. The Hadronox came, and now he has got that. Even though he hasn't got the board you were talking about, because he's got that armor, it works the same way.
Pretty miserable choice for Kuonet, where, I mean, he can't kill it off, because if he kills it off on his turn, it gives all the enemy taunts the ability to attack on that turn. So he has to just let his opponent leave this Hadronox up, which probably ends up with cubing it or just attacking in and then killing off the Lich King as well. There is just so much ability here for NaviOOT to get a nice big board, probably buffed up with the anti-magic shell as well.
Yeah, anti-magic shell of his own though for Kuonet, and only 1 card left in Navi's deck, so this needs to get there very quickly. And this Defile is going to be interesting because it shouldn't get it done. It won't now.
Yeah, this is very, very clearly as well what Navi has been setting up for quite a long time. I was a little bit skeptical of his unwillingness to throw down the anti-magic shell earlier, but you can just see from the fact that it was an instant concede from Kuonet just how powerful the combo he was saving it up for, which I think is actually just some pretty good game recognition from Navi.
Yes.
Where he knows that's his win condition.
So yep, he is going to go for the easier matchup first, and it's the easier matchup because of that little card there at the bottom left corner, the Mountain Giant.
Yeah, El Gigante will be coming down first here for Kuonet, because this is not like the mirror where being on the coin gives you a little bit of a immediate advantage, at least, in the fact that you can go for a turn 3 giant. NaviOOT will be forced to go for a pathetic 4-mana 8/8.
Yeah, that's just awful, and why would you ever play such a card? Obviously, there are things that can go his way, but doesn't look like enough of those things are gathering at the moment, and Kuonet's hand is looking pretty tasty, so there is a chance this goes really quickly, although every time you think that with Warlock, they find so many cards, they can usually nullify things for some time.
And a lot of good threats being found here for Kuonet. If he can get himself down to that 15 health checkpoint, potentially with a little bit of help from Navi, if he does go for the Doom Guard through to face at a later point, those Hooked Reavers will be very, very threatening indeed. But for the moment, the double Twilight Drake and the Mountain Giant is definitely the way that Kuonet is looking to get this train rolling.
Yep, 3 mana 8/8, followed by 4 mana 4 lots, probably 10.
Lots and lots.
Yeah, 10 is lots.
Ooh, that definitely helps pull things back in Navi's favour, both from his perspective and in reality, with no ooze available for Kuonet quite yet. That Skull of the Minari could be doing a pretty scary amount of work.
Yeah, and Kuonet might be tempted to go face here, but that might not end well with the Faceless in the hand for NaviOOT. He's got a lot of things that can suddenly turn this around if things don't go right for Kuonet.
Yeah, this is the benefit of Cube Lock over even Warlock, is maybe if it's not there in terms of power level, in terms of the tricks that it can pull off, I feel like it's just so much less of a linear deck than even Warlock is, because you can go for stuff like Faceless, you have Umbra, you have Cube as well. It means that everything is not necessarily what it seems at face value, because you can go for these very clever plays that pull things back quite drastically in your favour.
And he does Faceless it, but he's going to go extremely low on health, and of course there is no Hooked Reavers messing around in this one. They just keep taking that health total off until they die from it.
And there is the Acidic Swamp Ooze for Kuonet. He's going to be... Wow, he was mousing over it there. I suppose there is a potential that he throws it down on this turn, because if he can put forward enough pressure here, then he doesn't need to worry about Skull of the Minari. But he needs to be very certain that he has enough pressure to kill off his opponent, because I think you could consider the fact that your opponent would have played Skull there if they had been able to. I don't think that's necessarily correct, though, because copying a Giant is so much more of an immediate, fast play.
Yeah, that is a mistake you see very good players make sometimes. They don't realise that sometimes their lines are wrong or different, or what the other player is going to do, and you just assume that nothing can happen.
But through going with the Spellstone for Kuonet, he has got himself into a position where it's very, very difficult for Navi to pull back here if he plays the Skull. Nigh on impossible, actually, the Skull to come down on this turn and for Navi to survive. However, with the line that Navi has gone for, it means that Kuonet is left oozeless up against a potential Skull. Even if it just pulls out one Void Lord, that is fine.
And yeah, he just keeps doing work later on. Another 4 mana spell. And my favourite meme of turn 7 being bad is accentuated to the maximum on this particular turn.
So many possibilities.
Yeah,
so many 4-drops.
It really kind of is. We're at 9 cards, so tap and hope to hit a 6 or a 2-drop.
Yeah. I don't see why you wouldn't tap here, to be honest, but he's obviously trying to plan what on earth he wants to do next turn. Because you want to play the Lich King, but you really should be playing 2 4-drops.
Which is a reason to not tap on this turn. If you are expecting to play Lich King on this turn, you want to remove cards from your hand rather than draw through to more, which is why we see a non-tap on this turn. I think it's respect for the Lich King, which is almost certainly coming down next turn for Kuonet.
Yeah.
The end is coming!
Might not come down now, but it's still...
I want to point out as well, this is a mistake that I have learned the hard way, probably a couple too many times.
Okay.
Lovely ordering there from Navi of going Doomsayer first, then the Skull, because in that way, the Doomsayer will proc, then the Void Lord will be summoned. Too many times have I pulled a Doom Guard from my hand and then have it instantly destroyed by the Doomsayer.
Do your opponents use the emote when you do that as well?
Oh, they have a field
I would
day.
definitely emote you if you did that.
Yeah, that usually tips them off that I'm Derek Brown the caster. Not the fact that my name is Derek, but the fact that I just...
good player that's called
yeah,
Derek Brown.
Exactly. Just the fact that I destroyed my own Void Lord on that turn.
So next time you see that kid, just emote Derek, add him, ask, Derek Brown the caster, you taught me not to do this.
Please don't do that.
No one will do that to you, Derek. Obviously the chance here to Spellbreaker this and lob out a minion. It's not that good a Doomsayer, but...
Oh man, this is a not an ideal play for Kuonet, and I feel like he knows that, and therefore he's going to be playing this very aggressively. But throwing out a Spellbreaker against Q-Block just means that they will go nuts. This is all the signal they need to start making the most disgusting plays imaginable, where they just leave cubes intact. They don't have to go Cube Dark Pact, because there's no punish. The silence is just gone.
Navi amuses me so intensely. Like, he pulls the Umbra, which is a decent draw to give him some options, and the reaction of someone like, "Oh, don't make me make decisions. I just want to play my cards." It's like, don't give me things to think about.
This is not the deck for you. If you don't like thinking, Q-Block is probably not the right deck.
He has played this for a long time.
I wonder.
And, you know, you said Umbra was good. The only real death rattles that he's activating at the moment are summoning Voidwalkers off the Void Lord, which isn't great. You don't want to fill up the space so your Void Lord can't summon the Voidwalkers. You don't want to dilute your Gul'dan pool to the point where it's summoning a whole bunch of Voidwalkers instead of Void Lords as well.
Talking of which, Gul'dan showed up. Very nice of him to do so.
And the Spellbreaker, which is now not in Kuonet's hand, is feeling a little bit sad here because, you know, he did choose to go for Spellbreaker instead of Spellstone in combination with the Twilight Drake on the last turn to kill off the Doomsayer, which, you know, his opponent just played Skull. There's a very, very good chance that he ends up seeing a Void Lord on the following turn.
Yeah, it doesn't face off too well at all with this Void Lord. Barely going to make a dent.
Yeah, I don't know if I can respect this Spellbreaker coming down from Kuonet, because I agree he needs to be optimistic at this point because things are starting to slip away from him. But there's so much stuff that goes wrong for you if you play Spellbreaker. He can then go for Cube stuff, he can go Void Lord stuff, Umbra, Prince Tal'Daram. There's so much stuff that starts to go wrong for you.
But if you lose the board, which you try to keep by doing it, maybe it just goes wrong anyway.
Very, very difficult decision.
But things are looking incredibly good for Navi with his 2-0 lead and getting the board. And Kuonet's Blood Reaver Gul'dan is not going to be the same league as Navi's when he finally decides to get it down there.
Really just not even close, to be honest.
Still, he has got a handful of cards that are good, that we should respect. It's not just a dead hand. When you've got a full hand of
definitely.
a lot of stats, there's still a lot of play to remain.
The Hooked Reaver just isn't there, though, and that's what this whole hand is revolving around at the moment, is the desire to go double Hooked Reaver to start to pull this whole nonsense back in your favor. Which he can't do. I mean, for 7/7s, he can just play them as 4/4s, but I wouldn't recommend that.
No, don't try that at home.
I wonder.
Not when you've got a handful of better minions than that anyway.
Yeah.
But he has been struggling with. I think when odd and even decks came out, this is what I expected to see. What I couldn't picture in my head as I'd seen them built. I expected to see a lot of really cluttery hands that weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
Awkwardness. Now I have to cast to see that.
Oh, NaviOOT is still just on so many fronts, one draw away from pretty much locking out this game. If he could get himself a silence effect, of which he has actually no silence in his deck, which is somewhat interesting. So getting through this taunt will be a little bit more difficult. But a Doomguard in particular, I think, is really what he's looking for, to go in combination with Spirit Singer, Umbra, Cube, and Pact, as well as the Gul'dan, as well as the Tal'Daram. This whole hand is just begging for some fodder to copy with these Death Rattle effects, which I suppose could just be Mounted Giant, actually.
I was just getting that same conclusion while you were talking there. I was thinking, actually, let's just give up on the demons and start making 8/8s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have charge, and I think that's what's going through Navi's mind. It seems that I get the impression he's just trying to think about, okay, what do I walk into? Is there some sort of Defile Hellfire thing that I'm walking into if I do make this army of giants? Which sounds like a really bad horror movie yet again. We've done a few of those today.
And I think that's what Navi is spending most of his turn thinking about here, is can I go for that cube play on the Giant? The Defile here makes the trade into the Drake with all his lesser minions more powerful, which does make me think that is probably what he's moving towards. And yeah, all his consideration there was really board space. How do I get enough board space? And also, how do I deal with the minions on the board? I'm not completely invulnerable here. I need to be worried about my opponent's board clears as well.
So that's like 4 8/8s that need to be got through now. Well, they don't need to be got through because they don't have taunt. They need to be survived and weathered, one way or another.
Yeah, I'm not sure if much weathering is going to be done here for Kuonet.
Kuonet's just not been... It's really weird because he's had a full hand and 10 mana for quite a while now. His hand just hasn't looked like it does anything, and like you keep saying, it's about those Reavers. They're just not getting the job done.
And that's making me think, I'll have to look back at it and try and find some key moment where this has gone wrong for him. But I feel like there has to have been something he could have done differently to unlock this hand, because it's just been so clunky this game. Nothing's worked
the board
out.
Or something, like he seems to be holding on to things.
Maybe it hasn't been through failure of Kuonet, but more success of NaviOOT to put enough pressure onto the board to the point where Kuonet has to make awkward plays.
One big consequence of the Spellbreaker, which you were instinctively saying you felt was wrong, isn't so much that it was wrong as it looked. Wow.
Now Kuonet needs to make the transformation into becoming literally a human calculator, to wondering if there is any way he can clear off these giants with Lord Godfrey. It's not going to be easy, but it's Lord Godfrey.
It is. I'll just finish that thought about the Spellbreaker.
Sorry, please do.
What it has allowed is Navi to do all this. It's not that he can't Spellbreaker it now, it's that Navi knows there's no Spellbreaker
That's what
anymore.
I mean, yeah.
It's not that he's saving it to do anything to them, it's just that Navi has just had free reign to run around the board doing what he likes.
It's the threat of Spellbreaker that's so destructive against Cubeland.
Because the actual Spellbreaker itself isn't that destructive.
It's fine.
When there isn't one, hey, look at all this. Look what I made. I made this.
And NaviOOT knows full well that there is a Lord Godfrey in his opponent's hand, so he will be thinking, this surely puts me in a position where I'm not dying to it. What could he possibly have that clears up all of this? If it was 1, 2, 3, 4, you're still missing the 5 and 6. So even if there was a 1 or 2 health minion developed by Kuonet, that still would not even clear up the first wave of giants, I believe. Because you need that 5, 6 health level to get over there.
There's a Defile. Does that change anything? No.
I still think it's still the 3 health gap minimum between 4 and 8 for the giants and Umbra.
Yeah, and it's just more giants in the cube, so that whatever's in there can't be twisted to his purpose.
Yeah, and even this is just thinking of the first layer of giants. There's still 2 more 8/8s inside that cube. I think NaviOOT has realized, again, because that Spellbreaker has gone, there's just no board clear here.
Yeah, even though you've given me perfect logic, I'm still looking at it. But he gives it up, and NaviOOT is a 3-0 winner in the top 16, and he will be facing Muzzy in tomorrow's top 8.
Yeah, liked a lot of what I saw there from NaviOOT. A lot of, I think, the work that he did there was done in the prep stage, where it just put himself